to commend true companions to you. It comes with some really great strings attached. What you need to know. I realize how very brave and a little foolish it all really was. On an otherwise ordinary afternoon in the autumn of 2001, I waited for her to walk down the aisle and join me at the altar. 12 hours earlier, I'd awoken in the muted hours before dawn to transport a special bottle of champagne from my hotel to the office of our limo company. I had been mostly alone on the vacant highways. I'd done this by myself, because it never occurred to me to ask for help. In those days, I was used to traveling through life alone. Alone was all I'd ever known. Then the doors opened, and there she was, moving toward me. Time has taken from memory most of what followed, but I can still clearly remember how happy she looked, walking down that aisle. Somehow I knew her happiness wasn't about her big day having finally arrived. She's not a center of attention kind of person, and she's not a waiting for Prince Charming kind of woman. Rather, I knew her happiness was simply about marrying me. On the surface, I acted like this made perfect sense. I liked to pretend, even to myself sometimes, that I was quite a catch. However, underneath the bravado, I was still confused about why a woman like her would tether herself to a guy like me. Then she was there, next to me, with me, and in the moments that followed, I pledged the remainder of my life to her. Wedding vows are a little startling, if you are paying any kind of attention at all. I promised I'd stick by her through all sorts of catastrophe. Poverty, illness, her death, or mine. Just a few weeks earlier, the Twin Towers had been reduced to a tragic pile of steel and stone. The rubble was still smoldering as my bride and I promised to stick by each other through buildings falling and bodies failing. To promise that kind of no-matter-whatness when you are 20-some years old and living in a world on fire, you have to be a little foolish, or a lot courageous. I think there was a bit of both in our vows that day. Yet my wedding day promise was not nearly the bravest thing I'd ever said to her. 9 months after our first date, I had confessed to her for the first time. Until then, I'd mostly just been putting on a show, trying hard to look confident, calm, and collected on the outside. Meanwhile, on the inside, the deep reservoir of anxiety I'd managed to keep hidden within me for most of my life was beginning to rise. The dam was breaking, and some of the anxiety was leaking out through my body. For instance, the inside of my mouth was so plagued by stress-induced cold sores I could barely eat with her, let alone kiss her. I'd kept her oblivious to all of it, though, because I was pretty sure cold sores was not one of the boxes she hoped to check in her search for a companion. Then one morning, the dam finally broke for good. I decided I couldn't hide my suffering any longer. I sat her down, and with my head in my hands, I wept while telling her the truth. It was the bravest thing I'd ever done, to risk losing who I loved by being who I was. Again, time has washed away most of my memory about how all that truth flowed out of me. What I do remember is how she filled me back up with 4 little words. We'll figure it out. It was the first vow she ever made to me, and it was, I think, my first taste of true companionship. A month later, I started shopping for a ring. By the end of the summer, we were engaged, and a little more than a year later, we were standing at that altar, making promises that are awfully complicated to keep. About this book. When I began writing this book, I thought it was about saving this ancient institution called marriage. Seriously, I planned to right this sinking ship we call matrimony by convincing a whole generation of young people to quit jumping ship, to head to the courthouse, and to set sail upon the kind of life-changing journey marriage can become. Plus, marriage books sell like hotcakes. It all seemed like a very good idea. Then, one day, a friend pushed